Are you feeling stuck and called for something bigger? Or maybe you have outgrown your surroundings and you need a change. It's also possible that the environment that you're in is not where you are thriving right now. If any of this resonates with you, welcome to Boss Bitch Radio. This is an episode that I've been sitting on for a minute, haven't really felt ready to share, and now it's time because I feel like this is something that you need to hear today. And if it's not, you have found yourself in the wrong spot, so you might want to exit. Just kidding. No, don't. Stay around, stick around, because there are lessons in this story for you that I hope to inspire you and invoke your own internal curiosity for where you're at in your life right now. Now, working with women for so many years, I realized that a lot of us struggle to find our inner compass or follow our intuition or our gut feelings because it's not something that's black and white. It's very gray. It's a feeling. But I'm here to tell you that those gentle calls to action or gentle nudges or things that are continuing to show up for you internally are trying to tell you something. And it's not trying to tell you're hungry or you need a snack or you need to poop. It's telling you there is something that you need to address. There is something that's calling for you. There is something bigger for you. And I hope by listening to this podcast, it will open up a portal somewhere, maybe in your heart, your brain, and you take action. Now, if you stick around to the end, I'm going to share with you two resources that I tapped into within the last year, one more recently, that have been instrumental in self-discovery for me and my journey. And you may have already heard of these tools, but I feel like I need to share them with more women. So if you have not, stick around. You're going to want to tap into this stuff, especially if you love journaling and or you are scared of journaling and have no idea where to start. These two tools in figuring out more about yourself specifically, they're more specific tools, will help you in that journey. Now, in this episode, my hopes are that I'm going to inspire you to think big. Think bigger than you have been thinking about how your life is going to unfold from here on out. It does not matter what age you are, it's never too late. I want you to allow yourself to dream big, and use this podcast as an inspiration for you to think outside the box when it comes to your own wants, dreams, aspirations, and gut instincts. And I also want to confirm that you're not crazy because in my move to Las Vegas, I definitely have felt crazy. And it was generally the projection of other people's comments and or expectations of how I have been operating most of my life that made me feel crazy when indeed I'm not fucking crazy. Okay, maybe a little bit, but if you're here, you're also this kind of crazy, which is why you're my people. I also hope through this podcast, you're going to think about how these themes that I'm going to be sharing with you are possibly showing up in your life, but just in a different way. So take a listen, think about what I'm sharing and how that similarly may apply to situations that you are either in or have been in your life, and how I have turned things around to work in my benefit and how you can too. Of course, I'll share the two tests that I have tinkered around with that have been a game changer in my self-discovery. Let's jump into where I was to where I am now. And we're going to start with a little bit of a story. I promise these aren't going to be super long. I just want to get to the point to share with you so that way you understand where my mindset was and the things that had to change in order for me to take huge risks and essentially look fear right in the face and just punch it in the nutsack. So I was living in a very small town for most of my life. Turlock, if you're familiar with California, Central California, Turlock and Modesto and the surrounding areas for 45 years. I have a business in Modesto that I've had for 17 years. I have 3 kids. I have 2 grandchildren. I have my parents there, my best friends, my community, my clients. Everything that I have known my entire life is wrapped up in that Central Valley in California. Now, I have always felt like I was made for more. I was made for more. Like I was here for more purpose than just something for myself. It was for a greater good. I didn't really know how to articulate that, right? I knew that probably early on when I started getting asked to do things that were outside of my comfort zone because other people saw strengths in me. And I can take that back to the first time I was asked to teach an aerobic step class. I was in the medical field. I was just starting to love exercise and group fitness and things like that. And it was right before I had my youngest son, and I was dabbling in fitness, and I was asked to teach a step aerobics class at a local women's gym that I had just joined. And that's where I started to see little instances of people seeing things in me that I did not see in myself. And as that started to grow and people started to come to me for help with things, for fitness and what are you eating and what's your meal plan and how do you work out? I thought this seems to me like common knowledge, but it wasn't. It was because I was obsessed with learning about health and fitness because I started to notice how big of a change that it was making in my mental health and obviously selfish body reasons too. I always knew something more was going to come out of my journey here on this planet. I just didn't know what it is, and I'm still discovering that. So there's points where my story, obviously, we went off-roading a little bit into different directions, but I think that is the beauty of trying to find who you are on this planet. Now, one thing that's important to this story is I've been divorced for over 10 years. My youngest son was 8. He's about to be 19. So I've been divorced for quite some time. So let's take it back to before I moved to Vegas. Everything was great. My business is thriving. My family, my friends are all there, but I felt like something was missing. And I felt like I don't want to say that I felt like I outgrew the city because that sounds very obnoxious and pretentious, but I just felt like I needed more opportunity than what I was currently getting and where I was spending my time and what I was surrounded with. So I felt like there was definitely more that I needed to discover. I needed to experience more. And the more that I experience and that I learn things, not only about myself, but how it can apply to other people, I needed more experiences to learn more lessons to share with more people. And that's really what I feel like I've been called to do as my role here on this planet. Okay. So bear with me. I know it sounds like we're out in the forest, barefoot, hugging trees and looking at the stars, but it really is true to the depth of my soul. Now, think about this. I've lived the same environment for 45 years. I knew that I needed to go through a process of self-discovery. So 2 years ago, I hired a mentor slash life coach that really pushed me outside of my comfort zone. And I did this intentionally because I knew that almost like I needed a bit of a guide in a sense that would confirm that I wasn't crazy and that would also listen to me and really see where it was that I was trying to take my life and push me outside of my norms in terms of growing in that direction. So one of the ways that I did this was I was exposed to a world of non-monogamy. Now, don't leave yet, all right? Because you don't have to agree with it. This is just what has spawned a lot of my curiosities in life. And I feel like is a big reason as to why I'm here and sharing, honestly, the story with you. So I was exposed to a world of non-monogamy accidentally. Those of you that have been around the podcast for a minute, one of my dearest and closest friends is a therapist. She's amazing. Her name's Crystal Barrera. We call her almost Dr. Crystal because she is really close to getting her degree and being an actual doctor of psychology. But one December evening, her and I were going back and forth about what we were going to be doing for the new year. Her and I were both single at the time. And she sent me over a couple of things that she found, I think, like on Eventbrite. And one of those things happened to be a lifestyle party in San Diego. Now, for those of you that are confused, the lifestyle and non-monogamy essentially go hand in hand. There's different layers to this. I've learned a lot over the last couple years. I am turning a leaf in my life where I'm probably going to be sharing more of that. But this essentially is a community and a way of living the lifestyle, which believes in non monogamy. And there are different structures, and that's probably a podcast for another time. But essentially, if you've ever heard the term swingers or people who are sexually open or polyamory, these all kind of fit in this non monogamy bucket. Okay. I'm just generalizing here. Now, we went to this party. I didn't know what the hell we were getting ourselves into, and neither did she, quite frankly. We didn't really do any research. We just bought the tickets. We bought our plane tickets, and we're like, okay, this is going to be a fun, sexy party with lots of hot people, and we might see some sexy things. We had zero intentions on doing anything, and we went. And that was probably one of the most pivotal times in my adult life in terms of changing my perspectives on relationships and sex and sexuality and things of that nature. And we're just going to leave it there because again, that's a really juicy podcast for another time. And if you're interested in hearing more about that, I would love to know. So make sure to reach out to me over on Instagram or wherever you can find me on socials or email and let me know, because the more of you that reach out to me, I know that this is a topic that more women are curious about, not necessarily like you need to do anything about it, but you're curious and you want to know my thoughts and experiences. And I think it could be really transformative for a lot of people. But San Diego. So San Diego was one of the possibilities for me in terms of where I wanted to move. And I had been out to Vegas about 12 times in 2 years time span. So I was thinking about moving, like as I got into the lifestyle events, and I went to a lot of lifestyle events and parties and things of that nature. Something that I felt that I did not feel in any other environments is whenever I was at these parties or events or hanging out with people in the lifestyle, even doing lots of these things without being sexually explorative in any way, I felt at ease. I felt like I had found my people. I had felt like I had found people who understood that sex did not need to be exclusive to just romantic relationships, that you can indeed separate sex from the emotional piece of things. And it's something to not be ashamed of or essentially talk down on, because it is something that has brought a lot of freedom to a lot of people's lives and communication within their relationships and things of that nature. Now, of course, there's always pros and cons to everything, but I started to realize there doesn't need to just be one way of operating in relationships. And I think this discovery was pivotal for me because I'd been divorced for so many years. I'd had a couple serious, I use air quotes, relationships, but something always felt off. And the more that I was in this environment, I hung out with these people and I was networking with them, and a lot of them are business owners and entrepreneurs and things of that nature. I realized that I was being exposed to something that could potentially change my life. And I say that wholeheartedly, and I still stand true to that. Now, in that self-explorative stage, I met Jack. And if you are over on my social media and you've been around for the last couple of years, you've definitely seen Jack. Jack stole my heart, and I love the man. He's amazing, and I'm just smiling because he brings so much joy to my life, and I'm trying not to get emotional. But I met him in my non-monogamous explorative stage. And during this phase, he stole my heart. And I decided that I was going to take some time away from exploring non-monogamy and really see if I wanted to go all in and cultivate more of a monogamish style relationship with him. And that's exactly what happened. So my vision for moving throughout this process was I want to explore deepening my relationship with him, but I always knew that I wanted to move, and it was either San Diego or Vegas, and Vegas just had a bigger calling for me. And so I took a baby step and I moved to Livermore, which is just about 50 minutes away from my hometown. But for me, that was a very big leap. I want you to imagine if you've lived in the same area, the same place, the same people, all the things for over 40 years, picking up and leaving that all behind and moving to another city is scary. And I knew Vegas was going to be a really big move. And I thought, I want to deepen my relationship with Jack. He lives closer to the Bay Area, San Francisco. So I decided to move to Livermore. And my lease was only 9 months, but I subconsciously knew that this was going to be my test phase. Like, this is going to be my test. Can I live alone? I'm away from everything I knew and loved. And can I do that? Is this something I can do? Now, my fears were I was ruining my family. And I'm not going to lie, the first 3 months were rough. I cried a lot. And it's silly now looking back, but it was part of my process because I was shedding so much of my expectations for how I felt people wanted me to show up in the world to support them and be there and be essentially a support system for my family, and cried so much. I remember distinctly just being on the phone with my daughter and just bawling, and she was so supportive, and she's just an angel, but I was just really scared. I was going to lose touch with my roots, right? Like where I grew up, my people. And I realized that I had been living my life up until that point in response to what everything, like everybody else needed. Like my kids, my business, my family, my community, my friends. I was living my life in response to their needs. And that's my job here on this earth. And also, my job on this earth is to expand beyond that and be able to have more reach. And part of the podcast and my YouTube and things of that nature are that purpose. So through that, living in Livermore, I realized I still wanted my original dream to move to Las Vegas, because what was happening in Livermore, I was hermiting a lot. I was not really leaving my house. I didn't really explore much there. Jack and I hung out quite frequently. He stayed at my place several nights per week. And then I was still returning back to Modesto generally about once per week. And I felt like this was my way of like weaning myself off of what I knew forever. And so that was a challenge, because every time I would go back to my city, back to Modesto, it just felt very heavy. And I just felt like that wasn't where I was supposed to be. And I don't know how else to explain it, but my lease was approaching its ending. And right around the time that it was ending, I was in conversation back and forth with Coach Denise. Now, if you have been working with us in any of our programs, you definitely know who Coach Denise is, because she is one of our online coaches, and she actually lives here in Las Vegas. And we've become great friends over the last couple of years. And as my lease was approaching its end, she had mentioned to me that they were purchasing a new home and they were going to wait on selling the home that they were currently in until the market was better, so on and so forth. And I remember this. We go back and forth through this chatting app. It's called Marco Polo, and I communicate with my team through there. And I distinctly remember being in my kitchen in Livermore and listening to her Polo. And she had said that they were going to hold off and they were probably going to rent out their home. And the first gut instinct that came to me was, what if you asked her if she would be willing to rent her house out to you? And it literally just came to me. I don't know what, how, when, or whatever, but I sent her a Polo back, and I just proceeded to share with her that was my dream, was to move to Vegas. And I'd been out there, and she knew because we had talked about it before. And she came back and said, absolutely, we would love to rent our home to you. And then I shit my pants, because I was like, oh, fuck. I got to really do this now. Like, this has just landed in my lap. My lease is up in 3 months, and I need to see if this is something I can do. Things moved really quickly, and I decided that I wanted to check in with 3 very important people whose opinions matter the most to me. And then I started chatting with the next most important people in my life. And the first people that I chatted with, one technically 4 people. The first person I chatted with was my sister. My sister had recently up and moved to Texas, probably about 7 or 8 months prior to me moving. And I knew that was a big move for her. And I knew that my parents were probably feeling a type of way about that. But I really wanted to just check in with her. Like, how did that process go for her? How did she feel? How does she feel now? Does she regret it? And also wanted her opinion on what she thought about me doing it. And she was 1,000% supportive. And so I decided to then chat with my children. And so that's how it all unfolded. And I spoke with my daughter first because she has a huge hand in the business. And I knew that with me leaving, that was going to be something that I needed her support in, not only from a business perspective, but as my daughter, I want to know what her thoughts are. So I went down the line and I spoke with both of my sons, and they were just like, yeah, mom, it makes sense. I mean, everybody who knows me the best, they were all saying the same thing. It just makes sense. Vegas is 100% you. Yes, absolutely. Like, no negativity. Then I spoke with my closest friends. And of course, like, if your besties are down, they're going to want you to move to fucking Vegas. Okay. So I took one more trip out just to see, like, what is my gut saying? What is my gut saying? And my gut said, hell yes, bitch. And so when I was here on that last trip, I was wondering, right? Like, why do I want to do this? What about Vegas? Like, I don't want to just move here and have this be another experience like Livermore was, where I just hermited and I didn't do anything. And there was really no grand purpose for me to move to that city other than getting closer to Jack, deepening our relationship, and getting out of Modesto. But I was hoping to get some more out of that experience. When I came to Vegas that last time, I took the time to really spend a lot of journaling and introspection and thinking about the possibilities and opportunities and what sort of discovery, community, all those things. And I thought, okay, I'm going to do this. And so I've been here for 5 months and I absolutely love it. I do not regret my decision whatsoever. Now, logically, sometimes these things are going to come to you and they're not going to make sense in terms of how this is going to weave into your life or why it matters. But my lesson here for you is sometimes you have to move beyond logic, because logic doesn't always guide you in the right direction. A lot of times it is, for me, it's a gut instinct, it's an intuition, it's a knowing beyond knowing. And I don't know if that resonates with any of you, but I knew deep down that this was something that was calling for me. And I have no idea why, but I'm starting to slowly peel back the layers of the onion, and I'm discovering more and more almost every day, something new. It comes up for me. Now, one other thing I want to share with you is you do not need to have this all figured out. Now, if there is something pulling at you, calling at you, you feel inspired to move, pick up and leave to another city, another destination, change jobs, whatever there is that's creating maybe a little bit of unrest internally for you, that is a sign that you need to listen. You need to listen to that. Now, you need to also understand that there's going to be a lot of unknown, and there is fear around the unknown, because when we're not sure what's around the corner, it's scary. We want to be prepared for things. And if you can lead your journey into self-discovery with being okay with not knowing all the answers, they will start to unfold in front of you, and you will be surprised at how you can actually take those unexpected things and turn them into really beautiful things. One thing I really want to drive home is fear holds so many of us back. It's held me back for a lot of years, and also doubt. Now, when you can realize that the fear of the unknown is keeping you stuck, it's very eye-opening, and it should create a sense of urgency for you to get out of that. And a lot of times we don't know how that's even going to happen. We don't even know what that looks like. And that was me. That was me saying, I know that I need to be somewhere else besides here, because I need to be pushed outside my comfort zone. And I'm not doing that here in the comforts of my hometown, my home city. and I need more exposure to other people, events, just people, places, things, all of that. And one thing I remind myself every time when I have that fear creep up is I have to feel the fear and I need to do it anyway. Because if you do it anyway, it's teaching your subconscious that you can operate outside of your normal ways of being, and it's not a threat to your environment or who you are or what you're doing in the world. It's teaching you something. Now, some of the fears that came up for me was, how am I going to make friends? What will I do when I'm sad and I miss my family or my grandbabies or my friends? What am I going to do when I'm bored, right? Or how am I going to make any of these things happen that I know need to happen? And what I had to remind myself is that I didn't follow a traditional course of life. And I say traditional very loosely because I even use traditional in the sense of like what most people seem to think as normal, right? You go to high school and you go to college, and then you probably move away to go to college and you live the whole college life and you get your degree and then you go into your field of specialty. And that to me felt like what I was supposed to do. And I felt very early on that I fucked that up. And let me explain, because if you're new here, hi, welcome. But that was not my traditional course of life. The reality is that my traditional course did not look anything like that. I got pregnant in high school. I was a kid living with my parents up until I got pregnant. And then I got pregnant and I was still a kid because I was 16, about to be 17. And then I had two babies before, or right at my 19th birthday. I had my daughter and I turned 19 a couple days later, I want to say. And that was not traditional. And so I never really got to be Diane. Diane never got to be Diane. Diane got to be the teenager living at home, and then got to be a mom, then got to be a wife. And all of these things followed a pattern because of my choices early on. And I don't regret them for one single moment, because it's brought me here to share my story and how that does not have to be the only way. Now, I didn't get to figure out what I wanted because my choices were already made for me, in the sense that I had obligations. I had kids to raise. I had then became a wife. And so I never really got to understand what it was that made me tick and also wanted to come out of me in terms of bringing out my gifts into the world. So now that I'm in Vegas, things are different. I'm exploring things. I'm embracing the unknown. Now, things that I have done that I hope will inspire you to think about, wow, that sounds great, and I would love to tap back into things that I love or I'm passionate about, are I've been connecting with local women in different networking events, different ladies' nights out things that were just exclusively for women, that's cultivated by like little groups on Instagram or meetups. And I found my gym. I found my yoga studio. I've tried out some pole dancing stuff. I've gone and went hiking solo to Mount Charleston. We went to Red Rock Canyon. Like, I'm getting to do these things that are like down the street from me, and they're amazing. I've had some really inspiring moments watching certain shows here in Vegas and different experiences. I've been enjoying finding local coffee shops. There have got to be like, I don't even know, probably over 100 different really intricate, unique coffee shops, entertainment experiences. I've also found the lifestyle communities and sex positive people who think very similarly, and it feel like I'm in a city and a community where my ways of thinking and being outside the box are more acceptable without being scrutinized. And I've found more opportunities to network and connect with really powerful women, which I believe are going to open up doors for me to bring more information to the world and my community. And it's going to expose you guys to some different things. And I'm really excited about that. And one thing I always come back to when I talk about Las Vegas is Las Vegas, for me, it's a feeling that I have when I'm here. So every time I would come here before I moved here, I felt like I was always internally smiling. I don't know if that makes sense for anybody, but I always felt like inside of me, I was just smiling because I felt like I was at peace with the environment and the energy that's here because it feels like the land of the misfit toys. And I've always felt like a misfit toy my whole life, but especially in my smaller town in California, I always felt like people were always just like, oh, you're so edgy, you're so brave, you take risks and you do this. And like, that's a lot more accepted and normal here in Vegas, and it's not very special. Like, there's so many people doing way more, and I love that, and I feel like it's pushing me to really want to explore more things besides just fitness, because I am more than just health and fitness. I am a very dimensional and deep human being that has a lot of thoughts about certain things and likes to articulate my lessons about certain experiences that I have in hopes that it resonates with other people to then inspire them to also think outside the box and encourage them to have more experiences in their life. Vegas feels aligned for me. I feel aligned. I love when people let their freak flag fly unapologetically. And I can remember back when I started my very first newsletter to my email list, and it was my closing tagline was unapologetically sexy or be unapologetically you. And that was always my thought about how I wanted to show up in the world. I don't want to be small and shrink. I want to be me unapologetically. And I feel like when I'm here in Vegas and I am experiencing either groups of people or entertainment, I smile so much at people being themselves. Like they are living their passion and their purpose through their expression of what they're doing in the world. I feel more at ease here. I'm less frantic. I'm inspired. I'm turned on. I'm pushed outside my comfort zone, invigorated, and I'm very contemplative. And I want to offer that up to you as possibility for you as well. If you are a very internal person where you think a lot, right? Where you internalize a lot of your thoughts and you're really curious about life, I really want you to tap into that, because the takeaway from all of this is that if you are wanting something and feeling pulled to do something and it brings a sense of excitement when you think about it, maybe a little bit of nervousness or fear, that's okay. All of those things can create the same feeling within you. But if it's bringing that and then you think about putting yourself in that situation. So for example, for me, thinking about moving to Vegas, it was scary. I had all these fears, all these doubts. Oh my gosh, what are people going to think? What am I going to do when I get there? All of the self-doubt crept up, but it was a fear, excitement, and it was like titillating a little. Like, oof, I don't know. Oh my gosh, that sounds so exciting, but I don't know if I could do it. But if you close your eyes and you think about you in that environment and you actually moving through the world in that environment, does that bring you a sense of peace? Does it bring you a sense of flow and ease? If the answer is yes, you need to listen to that. That is rich with information that you need to start pulling out and diving into. You owe it to yourself. Now, at the start of the episode, I told you about 2 self-discovery tools that I have found that have been incredibly helpful for guiding me through self-discovery and figuring out myself, because myself has been dedicated for so many years to a purpose of the greater good of my family and my business and my community and cultivating that. And there are more layers. There are definitely more layers. So part of that was I found, and some of these 2 things, you may have heard about them, but listen, I've been in grind mode for so long that self-discovery was put on the back burner. But if you have heard of these and you have not done them, or you've done them, but it's been some time and you haven't really spent some time getting to know yourself, I encourage you to do the Enneagram test. The Enneagram test, and it will tell you a lot about who you are in terms of your personality. For those of you that know about the Enneagram, I'm a 4. And the other important test, which is something that's actually more recent for me, is called the human design. And that is based off of your date of birth, your time of birth, the city that you were born in, the country you were born in, and it will give you an entire map of you as a person and your role here on the earth, and also your strengths, also what tends to be your, I want to say like blind spots, or they're called open centers, or centers that you can fall into if you're not careful. And that has brought an immense awareness to who I am and why I'm here. And you might not be into this kind of stuff, but listen, if you can take it with an open mind and really explore these two very valuable tools in self discovery, you will open your eyes to so many things if you just allow for exploration. Now, if you have done human design, I would love to know what your type is. I am a generator, which is called in that space the self motivated hero. And that resonated with me. Started listening to a lot of podcasts and YouTubes about human design and what the generator is, and also some other intricacies about my human design that are unique. Now, when it comes to diving more into self discovery, I do have some things that I felt were very helpful for me in terms of journaling prompts. And I encourage you to think about this. So if you're driving, just think about it on your drive. If you're walking, think about this as you're walking, right? What does your gut or your intuition tell you often that you ignore? And let me tell you, don't bring your head along with this exercise. Don't bring your head along. You don't need your brain here. So this is a great journaling prompt, and I encourage you to just write on that stream of consciousness, no judgment, no filtering, no holding back, no writing down what you think other people want to hear. Really, what is your gut or your intuition telling you about what you need to be doing with your life moving forward? The second question I have for you is, if you are following these nudges, these gut instincts, and you decided to run with it and actually lean into those things, how could your life look different? How could it be different? And I would love to just hear your feedback on that. What does that look like for you? Brain dump, go off, write on paper. It's for your eyes only, and dream big. You have to dream big. You're the only one that can dream for yourself. You got to do it. You got to dream big. The lesson here for you is you got to learn how to trust your inner GPS. There is a GPS. It is inside you. It is there. It's there to guide you. But over years and over time, conditioning, other people's ideas and thoughts and their expectations of you come in, and they enter other destinations in your GPS. And then your GPS system, when she's reading it, she's confused. She's turning around. She's making U-turns. She's pulling over. She's on the wrong freeway. That is how you need to look at it, is you have that internal compass. You have that internal GPS, but it's been years of other people's needs, wants, and imposing their thoughts on what you should do that have confused your GPS system, and you need to get her back on track. Now, this was really just a tip of the iceberg for me in terms of what I hope to be sharing with you in the coming months, the coming years, and really how this is going to shape the content that I am serving. Because in full transparency, I was very stuck and I was having a hard time with podcasting and creating content and sharing my thoughts on things, because I just felt like I wasn't living in my integrity. I just wasn't feeling as if I was lit up about some of those things anymore. And it's not to say that I'm not. I love fitness. I love health. I love movement. I really think it's important for me to continue sharing these things. But I also think that a lot of the experiences that I have are so rich with lessons. And I'm hoping that you're here for the journey and the ride, and to listen and hopefully motivate you to also do what feels right for you. If you are feeling pulled for something, but you don't know why, you're feeling restless or like something's missing, you need to get to know yourself. Now, it's a scary process for some of us, but on the other side of that fear is the life that you were born to live. You were not born to be mediocre. This was a super vulnerable episode for me, and I hope it imparted some action steps for you, because in a world full of people trying to fit in, we need more people like you showing up as the person you were meant to be. You guys, I'm getting teary here. Man, I'm totally having a moment. Man, this hit me hard. So if this inspired you to take action, if this inspired you today, I want you to take action. This is an absolute waste of your time listening to this podcast if you do nothing with this information, if you do nothing with this calling to you to push you outside of your comfort zone. It will be a waste, and I don't want you wasting any more time. So the first step I want you to do is I want you to reach out to me, and I want you to tell me what your biggest dreams are. You need to tell somebody. You need to tell somebody who is going to believe in you, who is going to encourage you, and who's going to tell you you're not crazy. And if you don't have those people in your life, I want to be that person for you. Please reach out to me. I'm always listening. You know where to find me, and go fucking do the damn thing. Kisses to your forehead. I love you.